Hello, I'm Archie Luxury, and thank you, Stephen Brooks, for supplying a little bit of booze for me. I'm going to have a Grey Goose and soda. Grey Goose and soda. And I got to tell you, I'm here to talk about watches, and this is a really interesting. I got a new fan who's he's a corporate attorney, and I want to take you back into time. 1983. And 1983. And what happened was my good corporate attorney friend Dave was going to Switzerland, and 1984, he went to Switzerland, and his brother said, get me a Rolex, get me a Rolex. So, he got a watch for his brother. He got a Rolex DateJust. And he spent about $1,200. And he also wanted to buy a watch for himself, so he bought himself a Baume Mercier. Now, he's not sure if it was avant-garde or Monte Carlo, but I think the Monte Carlo is the pattern. The pattern basically is very much like a Piaget Polo, except in two-tone. And it's a really interesting discussion, because he's asking me, what was the decision? In 1984, he went to Switzerland, and he basically bought a Rolex for his brother, and for himself he settled on this Baume Mercier. Now, he paid $1,200. So his brother got a DateJust. He got a DateJust, okay, two-tone DateJust, and it was probably a 16013, two-tone, quick-set DateJust, plastic glass, whereas he got a Baume Mercier. And who did better out of the two watches? And it's a really interesting discussion here. Who did better? The two brothers. So he really didn't do any homework, but I got to be honest with you, Dave. You really didn't do too badly. Well, you didn't do too good either, actually. Both of them. What's the prices now? Well, let's talk about it. The Baume Mercier, it's had a pretty hard life. I can see by the bracelet. It's got an integrated bracelet. It'd be considered far too small for a young buck to want to buy it. That 30-year-old aspirational buyer, that young attorney who bought it, he's since put on a spare tire at the front, and he's no longer the player he thought he was. Whereas the DateJust, it's had a bit of use. It could do with a bit of a service. Please send it to Jewellers on Time. They'll overhaul it for you, brother. But who's done better out of the two? And I've got to be completely honest with you. It's very hard to crystal gaze and say who did right and who did wrong, but it's obvious. The Rolex is probably on the used market there. $2,000 to $3,000 if it cleaned it up a bit. $2,000 to $3,000 it's probably worth. Whereas the Baume Mercier, I don't even want it at $300. Okay? And why is that so? Because it's dated, it's worn to shit, it's quartz. Yes, Baume Mercier's got a long history in watchmaking, but they never did anything that great. And I gotta be completely honest with you there. Even the Rolex is not the winner of this story. No! In 1984, if your brother would have gone for a no-date Submariner, a 5513, plastic 5513, that would have been the winner. Or maybe a 1680. And that's the thing. The real winner out of this story here, if you could go back to 1984 with $1,200, the watch to buy would be sports steel Rolex. You may even been able to get a Daytona for that money. That's the real winner in this story. Steel sports Rolex. See, at the time, in the early 80s, small, thin watches were all the rage. That was the cool thing to have. But fashion is bunk, it changed. And it's a bit of a nasty beast. It can be a nasty beast. The Rolex has stayed the same. The design is basically the same, and the watch has got one thing that really propels it. It's waterproof. I dare say your piece possibly has a bit of corrosion inside. It seems to be pretty worn. It's pretty well worthless. Whereas the Rolex has retained its character. It could be cleaned up and it would still appeal to that aspirational young lawyer. The real winner, however, would have been a steel sports Rolex, like a 5513 no-date sub, or a 1680 plastic. I think sapphire was coming out then, so maybe that you know, 16800 sub. You're probably better off with the 5513 plastic no-date sub. That would be the one to get, or an Explorer 1. That would be the key piece to get. But you don't know this. When you're there at the time, you don't know which piece to get. It's hard to crystal ball gaze and tell the difference. Let me show you a watch. For this review for Dave, I've also got a similar story. My father, I bought a Rolex Explorer 1 from a guy who was he was a client in the industry. I said I wanted, excuse me, I'm allergic to quartz watches. I wanted a cheapest Rolex you could get. He gets me an L serial number 1016 Explorer 1. I paid, it was $15.30. I put it on Amex. He charged me $15.75. 1,575 Aussie dollars in 1990. My dad at the time, he went down to the jewelry store down below and he bought this wonderful Omega Seamaster. Now, I gotta tell you something. It was quartz and it also had that inlaid gold finished. The bracelet was actually steel. It had a gold little key at the back there, but that's the piece. And I gotta tell you something. At the time, my dad laughed at me. He said, yours has got a plastic glass. This is sapphire. This is quartz. It's accurate. And it's got a date. Don't like watches without a date. Well, Pop, that Rolex Explorer 1 is worth close to probably about 7,000-8,000, up to 10,000 US dollars. Whereas the Seamaster here, it's not even a sports Seamaster. It's just riding on the Seamaster name. It's probably worth, I don't even want this fucking thing. In fact, if you have a look at it, if you look inside, it stopped working because there's actually rust on the crown there. Even though it said Seamaster, this bastard doesn't like water, and you can see the water damage that's happened to the dial. You're not supposed to take it in the pool, Popper. Definitely not. And that's what's gone wrong there. I gotta tell you the truth. This is just as terminal as the Baume Mercier you bought. Now, at the time, you gotta remember the period when you bought your watch. That's a fairly small watch as well. It's 33 mils across. Big chunky watches weren't in. They weren't in. That was uncouth. We'd just come through the 70s where small and thin was the name of the game, fuckers. So in all honesty, many people make this mistake. My dad bought that in 1990. I got the Explorer 1. Unfortunately, I sold it many years ago and bought a President in gold. We all do dumb things. But I gotta tell you, these things aren't as clear at the time. You bought something that appealed to you, and they probably were the same money when they were new. But there ain't no fairness in this world, Charlie. There ain't no fairness in this world. And in all honesty, that's the way the worm has turned. The worm has turned. And unfortunately, you made the wrong choice. Fortunately, you did law. You're an attorney and you got a 7 Series BMW. Life ain't that fucking bad, is it, hey? So, steel sports watches. That's the real winner from this period. Steel sports watches. Steel sports Rolex, to be exact. That's the piece now that trumps all of these. So, was it foolish? Well, these were, you just can't crystal ball gaze. You don't know what's going to be trendy. It's different at the time. It's hard to pick these things. It's very hard to pick which ones will be the winners and which ones will be the dogs. So, in all fairness to you there, that's how life is. Hopefully you haven't been divorced 3 times. Hopefully things are going great. That's probably more important than what watch you chose. But steel sports Rolex, that is the winner. I'm Archie Luxury. Tell me what you fuckers think of that.
We specialize in the repair of Rolex and Patek Philippe watches. We've been doing the same thing for more than 25 years. We have Rolex technicians certified by Rolex who actually used to work for the company for many years, like if we're doing the work on the factory. We completely disassemble the watch and we put it to work like brand new condition. When you get a pre-owned watch, it's like if you're getting a brand new unit. The only difference is the money.